Hi. I was wondering how many people have spent money recently to go and watch a movie? Anybody? Yes, good. How about to go and buy a book, fiction, a novel? Anybody? Wonderful, so many. How about to go to the disco to dance the night away to music? Yes, I thought so. That's wonderful. It means you have all participated in the creative economy. It is my great pleasure today to share with you my passion, which is the creative economy in Africa, and to introduce to you my latest project, which is the culmination of my life's work, which is called Creative Africa. Creative Africa is a comprehensive creative economy for sub-Saharan Africa. We are doing training, we are doing product development, we are doing production, and we are doing distribution on several platforms. Most important, of course, in the internet age is the internet, the digital platform. So why am I so passionate about the creative economy? Well, in all my experience as a copywriter, a novelist, a playwright, a poet, a filmmaker, a festival director, and a teacher, I have come to realize that the creative economy is one of the key strategies for Africa's sustainable development. We know the problems we have on our continent, and they can be summed up in one word: poverty. Yes, there has been economic development in the last decade or so, but it's tended to stay in certain sectors of society. It hasn't trickled down to the people. We have governments in many of our countries whose policies are not pro-citizen, and this tends to exacerbate inequality. So we have a huge issue on our hands, and I believe that huge issues require big fixes. And for me, the big fix is the creative economy. An economy is a system where value circulates. You value music in a disco, you go and pay money. That money then goes on to do other things. Now, in the traditional economy, the things that are valued are resources like labor, like land, like raw materials. How many of us have access to those things in this room? Not many of us, I think. With the creative economy, the things that are valued are the things that we have in our minds, that we have in our hearts and our souls, that we have in our gut, our emotions. The creative economy values those products that come from our imagination. And I always tell my students when I'm teaching creative writing that imagination comes from experience. So our experience as who we are is our raw material. As an example of this, I want to tell you about the Cameroonian-born writer, Imbolo Mbue, who set a record with the advance for her first novel of $100 million. It was 1 million, excuse me, it was 1 million. But anyway, that's a huge sum of money for a first novel called Behold the Dreamers. Has anyone read it? Nobody yet. Anyway, this is her African story, born out of her African experience, valued to that extent. Another African-born writer who has unlocked a lot of value from her writing is Chimamanda Adichie. Chimamanda Adichie regularly goes back to Nigeria, where she's from, and she holds workshops to enable other young writers to produce their products. She also has a publishing house where she helps other young writers to get their products out. So this is the creative economy in action. Another thing about the creative economy is that it is extremely powerful. Not only does it put products in markets, but it also puts representations of the world into society and into our minds. When we engage with these products, these novels, these films, this music, it becomes part of our experience. And so it also determines who we are and how we see the world. And it also determines how we relate to ourselves. So the creative economy is very powerful in determining the kinds of values that are put into society. Well organized, the creative economy can put positive values into society and can help to shape society in that way. An example comes from my work. My novel, Nervous Conditions, written many years ago, is a novel about women's emancipation. I still get invited to read or to talk about that work, and wherever in the world, from Switzerland to South Africa, wherever in the world I am, women come up to me afterwards and they say, "Thank you so much for that book. It really helped me to work out some of the issues I had in my life." Increasingly in Zimbabwe, when I talk to young people, young men, they say to me, "We're beginning to realize that we shouldn't be treating the women in our life like that, our sisters and so forth." So this is a power of the creative economy. Another power of the creative economy comes from the fact that it can put into society new ideas that did not exist in society. A wonderful example comes from Kenya, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Everyone's heard of Ngugi, right? Yeah, and he's been writing for decades on how we can have better communities, better leaders, better institutions, better nations. It's taken time, but people have engaged with these ideas. Other people have written about them. They have become part of the discourse, the public discourse. And now we see change, political change, creeping onto the continent. We had Burkina Faso a couple of years ago. Now we have Gambia. Now we see what's happening in Tanzania. So the creative economy is also very powerful in that respect. People often say that the crisis in Africa is a crisis of leadership. I always respond by saying, I believe that the crisis in Africa is a crisis of personhood. We don't know who we are, we don't have the right values, and there are reasons for this, some of them economic. The creative economy can lift us out of poverty because we all have the resources that are required to participate in it, especially in the internet age. It can give us positive representations. It can give us ideas that enable us to make the best of our nations and our situations. A challenge has been that it was said that representations of black people do not find a market. There are historical reasons for that I'm not going to go into. I will say, however, one of the most successful films of the last 2 months is Hidden Figures. Anyone seen Hidden Figures yet? Yes, exactly right. Released on Christmas Day last year, has grossed, wait for it, 227.5 million. That's on a budget of 25 million. And that is a film about African-American women mathematicians who helped to put a man on the moon. So yes, we can have creative products about black people in the market that do well. Coming closer to home, we have Hotel Rwanda. Again, anybody? It's a little bit older. Anybody? You see? That film had a budget of 17.5 million. How much did it gross? 33.8 million. Tidy profit. So it can be done. So this is why I say that smart investment in the creative economy is one of the things we have to drive for. And this is why I have developed my vehicle, Creative Africa, to cater for that. The challenge that we have is that the products I have mentioned, including my novel, Nervous Conditions, are all owned off the continent. So all those millions are going off the continent. People are wary. They say, well, can this work on the continent of Africa? There's so many issues to consider. Well, let's consider the issue of Nollywood that everybody knows about. 530 million a year turnover from Nollywood. Nollywood is now the second biggest employer in Nigeria after agriculture. It's lifting people out of poverty, and it's giving them a future. At my organization, the Institute of Creative Arts for Progress in Africa, we say, when we change Africa, we change the world. And I really hope that you will, in the not-too-distant future, be able to engage with the products that are coming out of Creative Africa, and that together we will see this change taking place on our beloved continent. Thank you.